After years of neglecting to train my abs, I decided to do 100 sit-ups every day for 1 month. Here's how it went. Before we go any further, please be sure to comment, like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. We're on the path to 500 subscribers and it would be much appreciated. With that out of the way, let's get back to the video. On day 1 of this challenge, I was a little bit eager to get started. I haven't done this many sit-ups in quite some time, and I was really interested to see how quickly I could do them, plus to kind of see, what my form would be like if I was able to even do 100 sit-ups in a row, and really see how all of this would come together. And here's how it went. All right, day number 1 of doing 100 sit-ups every day. Let's get it done. All right, first day is down and we're looking at just under 7 minutes. Not great. Moving forward though, I'm not gonna be doing them all at once. We'll do them all at once at the end of this challenge. I'm gonna say that I was struggling pretty hard. Had to pull out cheat reps for about the last 50. So it's not even a true 100 sit-ups. However, moving forward, I'll be able to break it out into like 5 sets of 10 in the morning and 5 sets of 10 at night. So that way I'm not burning myself out too quickly. After day 1 though, I'm going to say that the abs are cramping and I'm out of breath. And I have severely neglected core and ab training for the last 7 years. So I think this is a big eye opener for me personally. As you can see, it was a bit of a struggle to really even get 100 down, and most of those reps were really cheat reps. I would say that the most disappointing part was the fact that I wasn't really expecting to do like a crazy good time or anything like that, but I did way more cheat reps than I was personally expecting. Let me know down in the comments below if you think that my initial time was even acceptable. And if I'm being 100% honest, the idea of doing this for the next 30 days after day 1 and struggling so much, it really started to seem like a daunting task. And as you can see with this little montage here of me doing sit-ups for the first 7 days, I was really just kind of trying to make sure that I was breaking them into sets so that way I was able to have a little bit of recovery time and did my best to at least attempt to have decent form. All right, we're 7 days down. I gotta be honest. The first 3 days, I wasn't sure if I was gonna make it. I felt like I was super sore all the time and it was getting really difficult. I had to cheat my way through a lot of reps, but now I'm feeling a lot better. I think time is going by quicker whenever I'm doing my sets, and overall, I don't feel as sore, which is good. So let's keep it going. We got a long way to go. See you on a little bit. After the first week, I have to say that I was really starting to get into a nice rhythm and I was starting to feel like I was able to accomplish this in 31 days. It really started to feel like the sit-ups were getting easier, my form was getting better, and even though I was still doing some cheat reps, for the most part, those were even getting cut down. Once I realized that this was definitely a doable challenge, I realized that this was going to be more of a mental game than anything. Just trying to find different times to squeeze in the sit-ups, and since getting in 100 sit-ups doesn't take a ton of time, even on a bad day, you have the opportunity to kind of just squeeze them in the morning, after work, or even before bed. All right, week 2 is in the books. I'm feeling pretty good about that. Everything's happening quicker. I just do 100 sit-ups and I'm done. It took about 4 minutes that time, roughly, give or take. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think that this can make me more aesthetic. It's really just a challenge to see if I can improve on some aspect of my life, which is really just what this entire channel is about, right? 2 weeks in the books, about 2 weeks and 3 days left to go. Wish me luck. As you can see from my body language and my tone in week 2, I was starting to get down on myself just a little bit. I think for the most part, I realized that a lot of this had to do with just trying to beat a personal record from a time perspective, and because of that, it seemed a little bit pointless at times. But once I started to shift my mindset into really appreciating the fact that I was able to get these done quicker, I feel like things were starting to really fall in place. After all, not every challenge has to be one where you end up on the other side of it looking more aesthetic. Sometimes it's just a matter of challenging yourself and kind of putting yourself out there. And while I wasn't expecting to see any significant aesthetic changes, I am currently cutting, so I was expecting to see more visible abs, maybe some vascularity as a result of that. But after 2 weeks, I feel like I really found my legs just focusing on getting better times versus trying to find a more aesthetic route or looking better. Once I started really dialing this in and this mentality set in, I feel like for me personally, I was more motivated than ever going into week 3, just trying to beat new PRs. My main goal was trying to see if I could just get a little bit faster every single day, and one of the most exciting parts of this was just going back over to the camera after I was done and gauging roughly where I was at whenever I started the sit-ups versus when I stopped. And if you're trying to do a challenge similar to this one, my recommendation would definitely be to make sure that you give it a purpose. Make sure it's meaningful to you. It doesn't have to be just aesthetic. It doesn't just have to be fitness related. If you have goals, make sure that it's something that applies directly to, an end result that's going to be meaningful and purposeful for you specifically. Week 3 came along and I was definitely feeling way more motivated than the last 2 weeks. And as you'll see here in just a minute, as time was starting to go on, even though there were some days that I didn't want to do 100 sit-ups, I was starting to gain a little bit momentum and I was definitely more positive. Alright, finished day 21 and I'm feeling pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, not all the reps were perfect, but there wasn't exact cheating. I wasn't putting my hands behind my, hamstrings and pulling myself up. Just ripped through it in just under 4 minutes. With a week and a half left to go, I think my goal is gonna be to try and get to underneath the 2-minute mark, which would be about 1 second for each sit-up. And I think that's pretty big, task or accomplishment for this challenge, considering I couldn't even do all 100 by myself. So that's it for now, but I'll see you all at week number 4. Going into week 4, I was starting to kind of game plan a little bit how I wanted to approach my sit-ups each day, specifically because I knew on the last day I wanted to be relatively fresh so that way I could set a new PR time and really feel good about this challenge altogether. As you can see, I was cheating a little bit more on week 4 when it came to some of the reps, and that was mostly for the purpose of trying to assure that I was going to be in a good position on the final day to set a new PR. And this was solely for the purpose of seeing how far I had come from day 1 down to the final day. But I will say, doing this every single day, I was definitely seeing the results from day 1 to, day 28 or even day 14, really. Halfway through this challenge, I was feeling way fresher and way more revitalized, and it was getting a lot easier. Now we'll go ahead and take a look at the final day of doing 100 sit-ups, and I think you all will be pretty shocked by the final result. Alright, it is day 31, and I am so happy that today is finally here. My speed has been picking up way more on sit-ups, way less cheat reps. I can do the full 100 without any cheat reps, but some days I just like to kind of lag a little bit, if I'm being honest. And a big part of that is to see how quickly I can do it today, with today being day 31. So without further ado, let's go ahead and see what progress we've made. And we are done. 2:48 is the final time. Maybe a second or two off, but for the most part, about 2:48. So that kind of means that I set my goal for around 2 minutes. Might have even been looking for under 2 minutes, but honestly, I'll take that. They moved really well. I didn't grab the back of my hamstrings once. And for the most part, I'm pretty happy with the results. As you can see, I was able to knock off about 4 minutes off of my time, and that was with no cheat reps. As for my physique, you can see here and here that overall I think I definitely look better, but again, a big part of this, and maybe the only reason for this, is because I have maintained a calorie deficit throughout this challenge. As you can see, the before and after pictures here. In the before, I was kind of pushing my stomach out a little bit and cheating just a tiny bit. And as far as the after photo goes, I think the lighting and the flexing overall made me look better as well. But even with all of that said, I do think that I look significantly better now than I did when I started the challenge. But I do have some footage here from whenever I started the summer shredding series that I ended up cutting a little bit short. As you can see, my starting physique wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. And you can tell from my physique now, I think I'm looking a lot better. I actually filmed this today, the day that I'm filming this entire video, and I think that there's a pretty strong argument to be made that I look significantly better now versus March 1st. However, at the time of all of this happening, we're only about 34 days into the cut, so there's still plenty of work to be done, and I'm still pushing to maintain a calorie deficit and also ensure that I'm getting enough protein and still losing weight, mostly body fat. And overall, I think if I had to grade this challenge on a scale from 1 to 10, I'd probably give it a 5. And that probably seems a little bit odd, but there's a couple of reasons for this. On day 1, I was expecting this to be way more difficult than it was, and it turned out to be a very achievable and realistic goal to set out for myself. Additionally, I feel like doing sit-ups every single day was a little bit inconvenient at times, but for the most part, it was nice to kind of just add it to my morning routine, especially on work days. And overall, I felt like that was kind of a plus on this challenge. However, by the last week, I was definitely ready to be done. And while I did enjoy seeing my time go up and, using less cheat reps to get through the 100 sit-ups every day, I will say that even with my final day of doing sit-ups, there are some reps that are a little bit more consistent and maybe that I would have considered cheating if I was a little bit more dialed in, specifically to form and not just getting this done quickly. If I was attempting to do this with, proper or perfect form, I would definitely be seeing myself struggle throughout this challenge a lot more. But overall, I did have fun doing this challenge, and I feel like a 5 out of 10 is just, this was a challenge. It was an average challenge. There was nothing special about it. And the pros and cons both kind of met each other, right? Like, it was a 50-50 split. There was as many pros as there were cons, and overall, I didn't feel like I was overexerting myself on most days. And overall, I do feel like this kind of helped motivate me to try something new physically that would end up helping me down the road. Even if it didn't change my overall physique all at once, there were different variables like the calorie deficit that helped me look more aesthetic, but I do think that some of the changes that you've seen probably have to do with training my abs more consistently than I have in the past 7 years. While this challenge was a fun one for me, I will say that if you do want to see your abs and ensure that they're more visible, you're going to have to lose more body fat and ensure that you're also in a calorie deficit in order to do that. Anyways, that's going to be it for today's video. Let me know what you all think about the final results. Was this challenge worth it? Do you all enjoy this type of content? It would really help me kind of figure out what the direction of this channel is going to be moving forward, and I would definitely appreciate it. With that said, I think I'm going to end the video here, but if you did make it this far, know that I appreciate you. It really does mean a lot to me. And until next time, keep it together.